take a timeout.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brian Kenny, and welcome to ESPN Classic's Top 5 Reasons You Can't Blame. Jeff Gordon not only has more wins than any active driver in NASCAR, he also has captured 4 series championships. Only Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt have won more. Despite these stunning achievements, Gordon is not among the most beloved drivers among NASCAR's diehard fans. Is this contempt justified? In this show, we'll give you the top 5 reasons you can't blame hardcore NASCAR fans for hating Jeff Gordon. Reasons that range from a historical document to a beauty queen. But first, let's examine the evidence against the sport's rowdy fan base.
Here comes Jeff Gordon to take the lead.
Yeah, we did it!
But Jeff Gordon holds off the challenge.
Holy cow!
Jeff Gordon, winner of the inaugural Brickyard 400.
NASCAR is historically rooted deep in the moonlit back roads of the South.
And there goes Cale as the green flag waves.
More than any other sport, it is defined by speed and raw courage.
The first time I saw him, I didn't even know who it was. And I said, man, who is that? And he said, that's that Gordon kid.
Not since Earnhardt himself had I ever seen a guy walk into that garage and drive out on that track like, I own this place, Bub.
He's strong, he's aggressive, he's intense, and he wants it. They drop that green flag, and he's qualifying every lap.
In 1995, and only his 3rd full year on NASCAR's main circuit, Gordon captured his first championship. Then, in each of the next 3 seasons, he won at least 10 races, dominating in 1998 with 13 victories.
Definitely look up to a guy that can accomplish all the things that he has in the sport, for sure.
Jeff is not cocky. He's not arrogant. He's one of the most humble guys, one of the most giving people.
He's won races. He's won poles. He's led a lot of laps. He's never bragged about it. He's never boasted about it. He's done it with class.
He's going to do it. Jeff Gordon wins.
He could possibly be the best driver that ever drove a NASCAR stock car, period.
While Gordon was winning, NASCAR was rapidly ascending new heights of national popularity. Together, the driver and the sport flourished.
People know who Jeff Gordon is, whether they're a race fan or whether they're a movie fan or a TV fan or whatever. They know him, they know his face.
If people don't understand and just get the simple fact that that brought a huge amount of attention to the sport, they weren't watching really close.
But despite NASCAR's surge to the top of America's sports agenda, Gordon suffered the disdain of the hardcore stock car fan. In a word, he just wasn't country.
That's the man right there. The hell with Gordon.
They're the only fans I've ever been around where you know where every single one of them stands. Every race. They either like you or they hate you. There's no compromise.
Everybody has their favorite driver, and their second favorite driver is whoever can take the victory away from Jeff Gordon if my guy's not going to win.
Here's Jeff Gordon, dropped right in their lap, and it's genuine, and it's perfect. Well, they do. They boo it. No, I don't want that. Don't like it. No, he's too clean.
He didn't deserve any of the criticism he got at that time. He was just out doing a good job.
And all of a sudden, he's winning a lot of money, and he's got a beautiful wife, and he's got a dadgum Learjet. Look at that motor coach, and he's driving a Corvette. Why, I don't think I like this guy.
If Gordon was too polite, rich, and pretty for the predominantly male NASCAR base, he developed a passionate following among a growing segment of racing fans for precisely those attributes.
10 years ago, when you ask a female, who is your favorite driver? Every time they said, Jeff Gordon.
They were enormously annoyed and jealous that their girlfriends and wives were smitten with this young punk from California. And it got worse, and it got worse, and it got worse.
There were people out there to get Jeff Gordon. There were people out there making shirts up, Gordon sucks. There were people out there just planning rumors.
Once you reach sort of the critical mass of hatred, then there's not going to be any limit to the kind of mud that will be slung, no matter how slanderous it may be.
And the rumor mill wasn't done turning out unfounded information on Gordon.
Jeff told me Earnhardt even came up to me one day and asked if I was gay. Well, I printed the quote.
Whew, I have no idea where that one came from. That one pretty much came out of left field. I think that was definitely below the belt.
By God, if my man Earnhardt's questioning his sexual preference, then I better question it. Honey, it ain't no use you dreaming about him anymore.
Instead of just laughing about it, people were going, is this true?
With many of the hardcore loving it, a shadow of hate lengthened across the path of one of the most successful people in sports. After winning his third championship in 1998, Gordon seemed more pariah than superstar.
I hear boos in the background.
I could see it bothered him when he was introduced, and he got some boos, and it was loud.
The boos, I was okay, you know. Why are they booing? What's the big deal with that?
I don't understand why people would find him so repulsive that they would have to stand up and boo him. I mean, lustily boo this guy, because he's pretty much the closest thing to Earnhardt that the sport has now.
Look at the damage on Jeff's car.
Just listen to the crowd.
He could give $1 million to the biggest charity in the country, but they hate him, and that's just the way it is.
Jeff Gordon got his first win of the season Sunday at the Aaron's 499 at Talladega. He also got pelted with beer cans and trash. Fans not happy with Gordon winning under caution and beating their favorite Dale Earnhardt Jr.
My God, week after week, these guys are just booing my pants off. You just kept waiting for him to snap.
I considered shaking my fist at these people, thinking, what are you doing? You know, why are you booing this guy who is a great person? That can't be easy, to be punished for being good.
Now you've seen the case against NASCAR's hardcore fans for their disdain of Gordon. Before we present the top 5 reasons you can't blame them for their negative sentiments, here are 2 that didn't make our list. We call them the best of the rest. He was an easy target. When Gordon joined the circuit, he tried too hard to look like one of the guys.
When I met him, he was 18 years old with a little mustache to try to pretend that he was older.
He's the only guy that seemed to have more trouble growing a mustache than I did.
The silly high school caliber mustache.
That absolutely ridiculous-looking peach fuzz mustache.
If a razor fixed Gordon's facial impression, no blade could erase his unintended insult to Chicago Cubs fans.
He referred to it as Wrigley Stadium, I believe, didn't he?
Great to be here at Wrigley Stadium. You guys ready to do this?
Yeah, it's great to be here at Wrigley Stadium. Great.
Our other best of the rest, Jimmy Johnson. As fellow Californian and heir apparent to Gordon's throne, Johnson has received no better treatment by the down-home boys of NASCAR.
I think Jimmy Johnson calls it just about all the wrecks out there this weekend. I mean, he called everybody morons after the race. If there's one idiot out there, it was him.
Jimmy Johnson prevails. He's going to victory lane in the Daytona 500.
Is Jeff Gordon responsible for Jimmy Johnson? Tutored him along the way, brought him in, had him in a Hendrick car that, oh yeah, Jeff owns. So, yeah, it might be a little responsible there, just looking at it.
Boy, let's see a victory lane. Yes, yes!
When Jimmy Johnson came in 2002, all the equipment that Jeff Gordon used to win a championship was now at the disposal of Jimmy Johnson. How can you not win races? How can you not be competitive?
The Missouri Compromise of 1820. The congressional document, which laid the groundwork for the Civil War, delineated the deep differences between the North and South. Many of those differences remain, and some are expressed in the cultural passions that drive NASCAR.
Your hardcore base is in the South. I mean, there's no question. I mean, this is where the sport came from.
I always think of NASCAR fans as being blue-collar folks. You come home from church and you sit down with a big glass of iced tea and some potato salad and you watch NASCAR. Race car fans are very unique. They'll pick a driver and they'll stay with him come hell or high water.
You still had the traditional NASCAR tough redneck-looking guy driving race cars. If you looked at Richard Petty, you looked at Dale Earnhardt, and then you look at Jeff Gordon, that's not the same picture.
Gordon was not exactly a good old boy. After racing midget cars in his native California, Gordon relocated to Indiana as a teenager and drove open-wheel cars before slipping under the radar into the stock car ethos of the South, where a fervent form of regionalism was a way of life.
You can't blame the NASCAR fan for not liking Jeff Gordon. Oh, look at this pretty boy coming in. Where's he coming from? Rainbow Warriors, please.
You know, Jeff Gordon came from Indiana by way of California. He might as well have come from Mars.
He had invaded the South and began to beat all those guys, and they just didn't want to see him come in and take over, if you will.
Fans want to feel like they own a piece of you. They want to connect with you.
They could look at Dale Earnhardt and say, man, that man's in his 40s. He came from nothing, 9th grade dropout, used to work in a front-end alignment place. By God, if old Dale can make it, I can make it. They can't dream that they can be Jeff Gordon because they're long past any hope of that. They couldn't live vicariously through it.
1 down, 4 to go. Here is reason number 4. Age discrimination. Gordon hit the tracks at full throttle, winning early and often. Some thought too early and too often.
You can't blame him for being a little shy about taking a liking to this kid because he was so successful relatively quickly.
Jeff Gordon is about to write his name in the racing history books.
That kid got on that track and it was like he'd been driving it for 20 years.
When you see somebody young come in and succeed and then have that type of dominance that quickly, I think that's frustrating.
If you get again, I'll put this on the guy the racetrack.
If you're not a Gordon fan, you're going to hate that guy.
The Rainbow Warriors have done it once again. Now that's a familiar sight. Jeff Gordon in victory lane.
Gordon was Rookie of the Year in 1993. 2 years later, at the age of 24, he was the youngest season champion in the sport's modern era. Before turning 28, he'd won 46 NASCAR races. It seemed all too easy.
He just never seemed to have anything that he had to overcome.
He was able to accomplish things more quickly than the sport's legendary drivers. So the old guard hate him because of that.
Running against NASCAR tradition, Gordon set a new theme. Youth, not experience, would rule the speedways.
Experience, we thought, was such a huge, huge deal. But he's basically started a youth movement that hasn't stopped yet.
They're barely waiting for him to turn 18 until they let him drive. So, I mean, it's definitely got younger and younger.
It's the Jeff Gordon effect. Hire a young guy, put him in a car, let him run wild. The whole thing is performance. We don't care about protocol.
Some of them have brought some brashness and not respect for the sport. Some days you look and go, man, if Dale was still here, he'd grab that guy by the collar and straighten him out.
He stole NASCAR from the South. Gordon's cross-cultural marketing powers transcended much of stock car racing's homegrown characteristics and helped the sport migrate from Dixie to the North and West.
Filling in for Regis Philbin, who is on special assignment this morning, the one and only Jeff Gordon.
What really got things going is when Jeff Gordon came in, he brought the mainstream American public with him. And the us against the world NASCAR fans said, no, 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 no. It's us against the world. We don't want Jeff Gordon bringing the world to our cause. And they resented the hell out of it.
A lot of fans didn't like Jeff Gordon because Jeff Gordon enunciates.
Our sponsors and everybody involved in the sport just does a tremendous job.
To me, there's just not a place for that kind of stuff in NASCAR. The core NASCAR audience, they want that interview with the driver. I tell you, we run pretty good all day long. I did develop a little bit of push early in the race, brought her in, Booger Jackson wedge in her. She ran like a spotted bud ape after that. That's what we want, and Jeff doesn't give us that. You can't blame him.
It's just another reason to hate him, or a reason to hate him all the more than you already did.
Gordon, a smooth talker from the West Coast, not only attracted a new kind of fan, but also forced his Madison Avenue appeal into places like Madison, Alabama.
He was such a mainstream persona. And NASCAR was able to market him, to package him, and to sell him to America. And America bought him up.
I mean, he brought in sponsors, he was on commercials. Our sport started doing things with sponsors that we weren't doing before.
While the sport soared, with Gordon as its pilot, to national status, the fan that kept it alive for decades was left on the ground.
NASCAR's changed for us core fans a lot. You know, even the tracks. You go away from Darlington, you start running Chicago and Miami.
If you live in Rockingham, North Carolina, where you used to have 2 races a year, now you have none, you have to feel like that you've been deserted a little bit.
If I was a longtime NASCAR fan and I've been following the sport and supporting the sport with my dollars, and then these races that I've been used to going are now in California, I would be a little ticked off, yeah.
If you haven't bought into our argument yet, maybe reason number 2 will help. Brooke Gordon. After the Miss Winston beauty met her future husband in 1993, his life sped off in a new direction.
I've been around racing a long time. I said, there's a little boy who married the first glamorous model that he was smitten with.
He was done. He was done. He was cooked. And before you know it, he's a married man.
It appeared to those in NASCAR circles that Brooke had taken the steering wheel.
It was an easy picture to paint, that it was Brooke pulling the strings and pushing him in certain directions.
Brooke was a model by profession, and Brooke liked to get in the picture too.
She's a little bit insecure and wasn't able to share him with anybody.
Instead of feeling sorry for the guy, people would blame him for letting a woman run his life like she was doing.
He was always in his motorhome, would never come out and hang out, you know, saying, "Where's Jeff?" Always in his motorhome, you know, can't talk to him.
A lot of us felt like we never could get close to Jeff Gordon. He was just unattainable to talk to.
He was being led around by her. She was the one forcing his goody two-shoes image on everyone.
I don't think that she had the wisdom or the experience to direct his career. I think that many of the things that she did actually held his career back.
In June of 2003, after 16 months of legal warfare, during which Gordon's winless streak reached 31, the couple divorced.
Here's the kid who comes into the sport, changes the sport, marries the trophy girl. They live happily ever after. It's too good to be true.
People used to call them Ken and Barbie. Well, Barbie got $17 million and split.
Dale Earnhardt. To hardcore NASCAR fans, the legendary 7-time champion was the ultimate symbol of stock car racing. Earnhardt personified how his fans saw themselves: tough, basic, Southern.
Earnhardt really created the environment into which Gordon came and capitalized.
Dale, great effort, man.
Don't you suppose there was a little piece of Earnhardt thinking, I'm going to show this guy?
Gordon wins his first race in 1994, and he's weeping over there in victory lane. He's a kid.
And Earnhardt wore that poor kid out. Earnhardt wasn't known for speaking from his heart necessarily, and he sort of didn't fancy people that did, I don't reckon.
Dale marches to the inside of the racetrack, draws even with Jeff Gordon.
Come on, you know, the guy at the factory's not rooting for the striped car. You got the black car.
He didn't have any choice. Gordon was going to be his rival, whether Earnhardt liked it or not.
When Gordon won the season title in 1995, it signaled the dawn of a new era. Dale Earnhardt would never win another championship.
You certainly couldn't blame the Dale Earnhardt fans. Dale Earnhardt's the man, but he's not necessarily the man to beat anymore. Jeff Gordon's the man to beat. This was a kid that looked like he should be able to be bullied. Looked like a soft pedal ready for the picking, but Earnhardt could not crack it. He just couldn't beat him.
You come into North Carolina and you beat Dale Earnhardt? I mean, you got a justifiable riot on your hand. I don't think anybody's getting convicted on that.
Gordon making a move on the inside of Earnhardt.
Back straightaway, Dale Earnhardt is into the wall.
They only had 2 great toe-to-toe for the heavyweight championship. Gordon won one by a knockout and one by a TKO. It's 2 Daytona 500s that Jeff won.
Earnhardt and Gordon were not rivals, much less enemies, off the track.
I always think of it as kind of like the old Warner Brothers cartoons with the coyote and the sheepdog. You know, they were trying to kill each other most of the day, and then at the end of the day, they would go into the clock and punch out, you know, see you tomorrow, Ralph. Okay, Sam.
I think it quickly turned into a very neat friendship between the two and admiration for each other.
We could pick up the phone and call one another and talk to one another about things, the business side of the sport than anything else. Even, you know, we're partners in a couple businesses together.
Earnhardt drove the black car, but it was Gordon who happily wore the black hat.
Man, now we can really hate him.
Jeff Gordon having himself a big old time out here.
He might be trying to pull the wool over our eyes again.
Dale Earnhardt once advised Jeff Gordon not to let the boos bother him. The time to be concerned, said the Intimidator, is when the fans are silent, because that's when they've forgotten about you. Whether he's loved or hated, Gordon's place in NASCAR history is a matter of record. I'm Brian Kenny. Thanks for joining us.